Are you ready for another night of terror? Welcome back to the channel where your darkest nightmares come to life. Tonight, we re-diving deep into the shadows with 3 chilling tales that will make your skin crawl and have you checking over your shoulder. First, we'll explore a seemingly innocent antique doll that brings with it a sinister, unspoken history. Next, we journey into an abandoned hospital where the echoes of past suffering still cry out in the dead of night. And finally, we'll follow a solo hiker who discovers that they are not, in fact, alone in the vast, silent wilderness. Settle in, turn down the lights, and prepare yourself. The stories are about to begin. If you enjoy the thrill, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Let's get started. My girlfriend and I decided on a whim to visit Daylot, the city of eternal spring. We found this charming little homestay online, nestled deep in the pine forests, away from the bustling city center. It looked perfect, all wooden and rustic. The owner, an elderly woman with a smile that never quite reached her eyes, welcomed us with a cup of warm artichoke tea. She showed us to our room on the 2nd floor. It was cozy, but the first thing I noticed was a small, ornate wooden door in the corner, one you'd expect to lead to a closet. Except this one had no handle, just a keyhole. That first night, the wind howled like something in pain. I kept waking up, thinking I heard scratching sounds. I told myself it was just branches against the window. But then I heard it again, clearer this time. A faint scratching, coming from that small door in our room. My girlfriend was fast asleep, so I tried to ignore it, pulling the covers tighter. The scratching stopped, but a moment later, I heard a soft giggle, like a child's, right outside our main door. I froze, listening. Nothing. Just the wind again. I must have been dreaming. The next day, we explored the city, trying to shake off the strange feeling from the night before. But when we returned to the homestay, the atmosphere felt even heavier. The old woman was nowhere to be seen. As we walked up to our room, I noticed the main door was slightly ajar. I distinctly remembered locking it. Inside, everything was as we had left it, except for one thing. A small, muddy footprint, like that of a barefoot child, was right in the middle of the floor. My girlfriend saw it too, and her face went pale. We tried to rationalize it. Maybe the owner came in to clean, but the footprint was fresh. That night, sleep was impossible. The scratching from the small door started again, louder this time, more frantic. Then, a thump against it, as if something had thrown itself at the wood. My girlfriend grabbed my arm, her eyes wide with terror. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. Before I could answer, the giggling started again, but this time it was inside the room with us. It seemed to be coming from every corner at once, echoing in the darkness. We scrambled out of bed, fumbling for the light switch. When the light flickered on, the room was empty. But the air was freezing cold. We decided we had to leave. We didn't care about our stuff. We just wanted out. As we rushed down the stairs, we saw the old owner standing in the dimly lit living room, her back to us. She was humming a strange, discordant lullaby. "Leaving so soon?" she asked without turning around. Her voice was different, lower, raspier. We didn't answer, just ran for the front door. But as I pulled on it, it wouldn't budge. It was locked from the outside. Suddenly, all the lights in the house went out. We were plunged into complete darkness. The giggling started again, right behind us. A small, cold hand grabbed my ankle. I yelled and kicked, breaking free. We stumbled through the dark, trying to find another way out. We could hear tiny footsteps scurrying around us, a constant, terrifying presence. The scratching sound was everywhere now, coming from the walls, the floor, the ceiling. It felt like we were trapped inside a coffin being clawed at from all sides. We found a window in the kitchen. I smashed it with a chair, and we scrambled out into the cold night, not caring about the cuts from the broken glass. We just ran. We didn't stop running until the lights of the city were in sight. We never looked back. We left everything behind. In that house, our bags, our phones, everything. We later found out from locals that the area where the homestay was built used to be an old orphanage that burned down decades ago. They said no one ever goes up there after dark. They talk about the spirits of the children who perished in the fire, forever playing in the ruins. And they say sometimes they get lonely. They look for new playmates to keep them company forever. We were lucky to escape. I still have nightmares about that small wooden door and the giggling in the dark. So if you ever go to Dahlot, be careful where you stay. Some doors are better left unopened. Thanks for watching, and stay safe out there. My friend talked to a shadow. This story happened a long time ago, about 18 or 19 years ago, when my friend and I were around 13 or 14 years old. We were the same age. Back then, it was around Halloween, though in Vietnam at the time, the holiday wasn't very popular yet. My friend lived on Bin Long Street, right across from Quan Kong Cemetery. Anyone from that area would know it. At that time, the two of us used to hang out a lot, roaming around in the evenings, looking for places to eat. And for some reason, we always went out late in the evening. I remember one night we came back really late, probably around 10 or 11 p.m. The road was extremely deserted. Honestly, we were more afraid of robbers and drug addicts than ghosts. Still, we rode ahead calmly on a dream motorbike. Luckily, we didn't get robbed. When we got to the alley leading to his house, we kept calling out, but his parents didn't open the door. I thought maybe they were mad at him and decided to leave him outside. So I suggested he come over to my place and sleep for the night. Deal with the consequences in the morning. He agreed. So we got back on the bike and started heading out. But as soon as we reached the entrance of the alley, something happened. The front tire suddenly went flat, causing me to lose control of the handlebar. We almost crashed face first. Luckily, nothing serious happened. At that hour, there were no repair shops open, and all the houses were shut tight. With no other choice, we had to push the bike back. This is where things got strange. Looking back, I think I was actually luckier than my friend. At first, we didn't see anyone along the roadside. But when we reached a spot right in front of Quan Kong Cemetery, my friend suddenly said he smelled food. He looked over and saw an old woman standing by the gate, leaning against the wall, with a basket of fried dough cakes and steamed rice cakes. I rarely ate those kinds of snacks, but my friend said he was hungry and told me to wait while he went to buy some. I nodded and stayed back, leaning the bike on its stand. But after a while, he still didn't come back. So I left the bike there and walked over to call him, since the distance wasn't far. And that's when I froze, terrified and confused, because I saw him standing there, alone, talking and gesturing to his own shadow, right in front of the cemetery gate. I called out to him, but he didn't respond at all. As I got closer, I could hear him shouting loudly. The surroundings were pitch black. It's hard to even describe how dark it was. My heart was pounding so hard, I almost wanted to drop everything and run. But somehow, maybe out of sheer nerve, I picked up a small brick and threw it straight at his back. He suddenly jolted, his shoulders twitching, then turned around and asked me, "Where did that old woman go? She tricked me into buying spoiled cakes. Did you see her?" As he spoke, he held up a bag of fried dough cakes. The smell was absolutely disgusting. Even now, thinking about it makes me feel sick. It was a horrible, mixed stench. I quickly grabbed the bag and threw it into the grass. He understood and stayed silent as we left. On the way, I asked him about the old woman. He described her as wearing an old, traditional outfit, with a very aged face full of deep wrinkles like waves across her skin. I'm just describing based on what he said. You can imagine the face however you want. Her voice was weak and raspy, just enough for him to hear. When she handed him the cakes, her hands felt extremely cold. But he didn't think much of it at the time. After paying her, he took the cakes out to eat, and that's when he smelled the terrible odor. At first, he politely asked her to exchange them. But the old woman just stood there, staring at him and smiling. He started feeling uneasy, but he was stubborn, half scared, half not. Her face was wrinkled, but not bloody or grotesque. He kept talking, but she didn't respond. So he pretended to threaten her, waving his arms as if he might hit her. But she just kept smiling. At that point, her face looked pale and unnatural. If it were me, I would have run immediately, because it was obvious she was a ghost. At that time, I didn't know whether he realized she was a ghost or if he had been possessed or something, but he just kept shouting and gesturing until I threw the brick and snapped him out of it. After hearing his story, I stayed silent. We went straight home. The next morning, he developed a fever. His head was burning hot, like a furnace. Afraid something serious might happen, his family took him to a clinic. I went to inform his parents. Strangely, his fever subsided while he was at the clinic. But once he got home, the fever returned and lasted for several days. He lay in bed, delirious. His mother began to suspect something was wrong, so she called me over to ask what had happened. After hearing everything, she went to a temple and invited a monk to perform a ritual and chant prayers for an entire afternoon. That night, my friend regained some consciousness. The monk asked a few questions and quickly understood the situation. He told the family to prepare a small offering meal and place it at the cemetery gate. The monk then chanted while holding prayer beads for a while before leaving. Later on, I found out something. The year before, an elderly street vendor had passed by that cemetery late at night. She suffered a stroke and collapsed, dying right next to a pole, with no one noticing. It wasn't until the next morning that someone discovered her body. She had lived alone, so no one really knew her background. And since the incident didn't affect many people, it was quickly forgotten. The monk also said that she had been buried in that same cemetery. Her grave was small and neglected, eventually covered by overgrown plants. Over time, she became lonely and hungry, and that's why she appeared like that. She didn't have any malicious intent. The final story. We now come to a chilling and terrifying story about a funeral home in Taiwan. This haunted funeral home lies hidden within a desolate mountain near Wenshan District, in the southern part of Taipei. The haunted funeral home lies hidden within a desolate mountain near Wenshan District in southern Taipei. Many people believe it was built around the 40th year of the Republic era and belonged to a charitable businessman named Bai Chung Hui. After nearly 3 decades of existence, it has now been completely abandoned due to both objective and subjective reasons. However, many elderly people who once worked at that funeral home have recounted the following story. About 30 years ago, when the funeral home was permanently closed, a serious murder case once occurred. The unfortunate victim was a very young woman. One day, the young woman came to visit her father, who was working there. Unexpectedly, she was secretly followed by a group of thugs, who robbed her and assaulted her. Overwhelmed by pain and humiliation, she decided to hang herself in a room that stored urns containing ashes. Her father, upon learning what had happened, was devastated and grief-stricken, and decided to die alongside his daughter. From that point on, the funeral home frequently experienced supernatural phenomena that no one could explain. There are rumors that if anyone approaches the area of the room where the father and daughter died without offering prayers, they will either go insane or become seriously ill and bedridden for the rest of their life. Later on, quite a few people, after hearing such stories, boldly came to investigate the truth. Among those curious individuals was a 32-year-old security guard named Dang, who had once worked night shifts there and shared his story. One night, while I was patrolling, holding a flashlight in my hand. At that time, the entire cremation area had not yet been equipped with lighting. The surroundings were completely pitch dark. Occasionally, there were a few carts passing by outside on the road leading up the hill. While I was checking the area that stored ashes, at the far end of the western corridor, I suddenly saw a man hunched over, slowly walking toward the cremation furnace. Because the light from my flashlight couldn't reach very far, I couldn't clearly see his face. Before I even had the chance to ask who he was, in the blink of an eye, I suddenly saw that the man was now standing right in front of me. It was a horrifying sight that terrified me to the extreme. Under the beam of the flashlight was a pale face, with 2 eye sockets soaked in blood. But what frightened me even more was his mouth, with stained fangs, chewing on a large rat. His skinny hands were holding an urn containing someone's ashes, with no name identified. After that unforgettable encounter with a ghost, I no longer had the courage to continue this job and quit the very next day. Besides the story of that security guard, in the years that followed, the management frequently received many complaints about both the quality and the service of the place. Some people complained about not being able to find the urns of their relatives when they came to visit. Another case requested the management to track down a mysterious man and woman who harassed them and locked them inside the restroom. Until one day, as the number of people using the services gradually declined, Mr. Bin, 56 years old, the final manager of the funeral home, quietly observed the strange developments and mysterious phenomena happening there day by day. Every year, on the full moon of the 7th lunar month, Mr. Bin would organize a ritual for peace and offer food according to traditional East Asian spiritual customs. That night, after all the staff had left, he quietly went into his room to rest alone. While he was sleeping, he suddenly heard, faintly by his ear, the sound of someone sweeping the floor inside the funeral home. In the stillness of midnight, the sound of the broom sweeping echoed clearly. Mr. Bin was extremely surprised, as he could not understand why there would be any staff staying there at that hour. After a while, out of curiosity, he opened the door and stepped out. He slowly walked toward the area, behind the cremation furnace, where the ashes were kept. Mixed with the sound of sweeping, he also heard somewhere the sorrowful cries, echoing more and more clearly in his ears. It sounded as if a large family was holding a memorial ceremony for a loved one who had just passed away. Inside, he felt a creeping fear from those eerie sounds. But due to overwhelming curiosity, he tried to suppress his emotions and continued walking until he reached a window looking out behind the cremation furnace. The moment he saw the scene outside, Mr. Bin's entire body trembled uncontrollably, as if he could no longer stand. Right before his eyes, the cremation structure, covered in black smoke, revealed horrifying, ghostly figures. They stood surrounding paper effigies, clutching urns and crying. Their faces were charred black, peeling as if their bodies had been burned. Their bodies were twisted, their heads bent backward unnaturally, their limbs dislocated, as if about to fall apart from their bodies. The sight caused Mr. Bin to be utterly terrified, and he fainted on the spot. The next morning, the staff arrived at work and discovered Mr. Bin lying sprawled in front of the cremation furnace, which was still burning fiercely. Fortunately, he was rescued in time. After calming down, he recounted everything that had happened the previous night to his subordinates. After this incident, the management invited many feng shui masters to examine and perform rituals to cleanse the funeral home. However, during the rituals, supernatural phenomena continuously occurred. Two of the masters suddenly screamed in terror and collapsed to the ground, dying on the spot. After many failed attempts to resolve the situation, the management and local authorities decided to seal the place. And up to the present day, it has been completely abandoned. Many years later, although most of these supernatural stories have been passed down by word of mouth and may have been exaggerated to some extent, this funeral home has still become a widely discussed topic among the people of Taipei for a long time, even up to the present day. And with that, our 3 short ghost stories for today come to an end. Do you find them interesting? And what kinds of stories would you like me to tell next? Please leave a comment below. Also, don't forget to like, share this video, and subscribe to the horror channel right away. Once again, thank you all for your continued interest, support, and follow-up.